All right, a second quick video on using the quadratic formula and squaring real numbers. And honestly, at this point in our career in college algebra, we should know how to square a real number. So FYI, let's say A is a real number. It's not imaginary, it's real. So it is a number that you can find on the number line. Any real number can be plotted on the number line. Conversely, if it's on the number line, it's a real number. If I square a real number, I promise you it's positive. I promise. Anytime you square a real number, it will be a positive quantity. The reason we have imaginary numbers is when we can square something that the result is not positive, it's negative. So if I square an imaginary number, the result will be negative. But if I square a real number, the result will be positive. Always, 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 always. So here's a problem from your last exam, your first exam, on using the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. So the quadratic formula is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, and my pen's acting up a little bit. Let me erase this. Try this again, 4ac over 2a. I'm going to highlight this term underneath the radical in the quadratic formula. A, b, and c are real numbers. They are the coefficients on the x squared term, the x term, and the constant in your quadratic equation. The first term underneath that radical in the quadratic formula will never, ever, ever, ever be a negative number. Never, never. And what I see is something like this. I'll change back to the pen. A is 1. B is negative 6. The sign always goes with the coefficient, and C is 34. So what I see is this would be 6 plus or minus, and then I see this. No. If you're going to actually plug in the negative 6, you have to do it with parentheses around it, because what you're squaring is negative 6, not positive 6. Or you're not squaring positive 6 and then making it negative. You're squaring negative 6. So the result will be positive, I promise. In real numbers, if you square a real number, it will always be positive. So I don't even worry about the sign underneath the radical. I know that term b squared, whatever I square, that's going to be positive. And it's going to be 36. Well, it helps if you turn the eraser off here. So b squared is 36, because negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. And then we have minus 4 times 1 times 34. And all of that is over 2 times 1. And it looks to me, get the parentheses in here, this is going to have a complex conjugate solutions. 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus, what is that? You can tell I didn't do the problem before I started the video. 136 over 2. Well, 36 minus 136 is negative 100. And that's why we have imaginary numbers, because imaginary numbers allows us to take the square root of a negative. The square root of a negative 100 is what, 10i? So this is 6 plus or minus 10i over 2. And I can cancel a 2 because I can factor it 2 from the numerator. And I can cancel that with the 2 in the denominator. So the two values for x are 3 plus or minus 5i. So we have 3 plus 5i and 3 minus 5i.